Hello guys, welcome to another video. Singularity, Rimuru x Arifureta, by Aestics. Prologue, Rebirth, Death and Rejuvenation, between life and death, between death and rebirth, between heaven and hell, reborn of the void between states of beings, he opens his eyes dimly. Darkness. Everywhere. He finds himself in the sea of complete emptiness, in the tide of eternal nihility. The demon lord, Rimuru Tempest, finds himself depriving from the great spirit of darkness after an unknown time of inactivity. Death for the highest tiers of spiritual lifeforms is but a state of inactivity, a change of status. This is why primordials is the direct derivation of the great spirits, as well as the true dragons, complete conceptual beings, can endlessly resurrect in any condition. As per all beings associated with the primordial, egoless entities that was the facet of all of totality. As a true demon lord and an archetype of the element of darkness, he finds himself resurrected, only in a different universe from which he is familiar with. The characteristic danger for most spiritual lifeforms, of losing their ego upon death and resurrection, applies to him too, despite the overwhelming power he possessed. Will he be the same Rimuru? Or will he be not? Confirmed. True demon lord Rimuru Tempests has completed rebirth. A state changes. In a world of endless nothingness, where life and death lose all meaning, the omnipresent world system's voice rang deep. Less than welcome back, my lord. Greater than the ultimate skill, Raphael, bound to Rimuru by soul, as well as the Lord of Wisdom, welcomes his newly awakened master. An extremely wide, luxurious room, with pillars extending tens of meters of height, connecting the floor and the high ceiling. The wonderful color palettes were chosen by that of a master architect, built with sturdy, resourceful and highly valuable building blocks. The design can only be called as grand and majestic. That is if not for the death battle happening at the center. A white-haired young man, missing both an arm and an eye, lies helplessly in the arms of a girl barely on the age of adulthood. Cries and despair echoed. The girl was trying to protect the boy from the gigantic monster that was assaulting them, a silver-headed dragon-like and hydra-like entity. They boldly assaulted the boss room of a massive labyrinth, in hopes of finding a way out by exploring the deepest depths of the abyss, where a maverick was said to await successful conquerors. She was using every ounce of strength she had to preserve the life of her savior. She was not letting him die here, even at the cost of her own life. In a world without him, Hajime Nagumo, her life would have no meaning. He was the light in the 300 years of darkness that was her life. And thus, she goes. Taking in the powerful artifact of her beloved, she set off to fight the Hydra on her own, in hopes that it would distract it from the hiding spot of Hajime. However, reality was not so simple as to be redefined by the will of the living. Ah! She screamed, grimacing in pain as she got sent to the wall with a painful impact. Despite the pain, she stood up, her legs attempting to break down. She had to absolutely buy time, she knew it was hopeless. But she couldn't afford to give up. That's what Hajime always did. He managed to survive hell with the resolve to go back to his true home, and he will do so at all cost. He had his heart reforged by the flames of agony and despair. If she wanted to be able to stand by his side, then something like this shouldn't cause her to waver. Just as she was about to go on a suicide rush once again. Don't cry, you won this fight, Hajime. She found herself carried by Hajime, who was supposed to be unconscious in a corner of the massive room they were in. How? She thought. However, she held no doubt. The questions can come later. Just as she thought so, Hajime dashed at a speed unbelievable for his former self. One would normally expect someone of his condition to be dead by now, but the intense emotions and desires raging in his mind at seeing how pathetic he was, awakened the derivative skill of aerodynamics, Riftwalk. He dashed and dashed. He saw the beams of energy shot by the Hydra in slow motion, as he avoided every single one of them. He fired off Donner, his reliable firearm-type artifact that has saved him countless times in countless life and death situations. However, even with that, not a dent was put on the massive and tough body of the Hydra. For that, he needed use immense magical power, as well as cause a breakdown of the ceiling. And yet, before he could execute the plan he and Yu devised, a single being appeared before them. Its presence was massive, dwarfing both theirs and the Hydra, and they were forced to their knees in submission. The entire room began to crumble with the immense pressure. Cracks appeared everywhere and debris began to fall. As for the Hydra, it was already cowering in fear. The previously insurmountable Hydra is now behaving like a forcibly disciplined dog. In the face of such overwhelming power, even their inhuman determination was as insignificant to the indifferent universe as humanity's infinitely small existence. The being was floating, suspended in midair upside down. It opened its eyes. He or she looked androgynous, neither man nor woman, but seemed both and had a height of about 180 centimeters, fairly tall by human standards. Rimuru is canonically short ASF, and I don't want that here. Furthermore, their beauty was otherworldly divine. The silvery blue hair was smooth and long, with each strand glistening. Deep gold eyes that saw right through everything, as well as glossy pink lips. Their skin was as white as snow, tender and meticulous. It was on a realm way above what any human could possibly achieve. "Who are you?" Hajime felt the voice behind him. An angelic voice, as well as a sweet fragrance enters his ears and nose respectively. However, the power carried by those words only filled him with dread. He was just there. How did he get behind me? Hajime didn't dare himself to look back. His throat was numb, his entire body sore. The adrenaline rush from before is nowhere to be found, and his injuries are finally starting to kick in. The being exuded an obvious hint of masculinity despite their dashingly good androgynous looks, so he immediately assumed it was a male, or at least identifies as a male. If it was back on Earth, he would have got cancelled to oblivion by Twitter, but that's not the case right now. Yu, who was beside him, was in a similar condition. Her vampiric instincts are screaming at her to not move. Try to fight back and this entire place will be blown off to universal chaos. Oh, so I was letting off? As they muttered those words, the massive, overbearing atmosphere that suppressed everything into submission suddenly vanished like mist into thin air. The two breathed a sigh of relief, as they prepared to hastily run away, but before they could. WRAGGHH. The Hydra was suddenly enclosed on a dome-shaped barrier, large enough to encase it entirely, as black, ominous flames of purgatory appeared from within. The temperature of the flames casually went over billions of degrees. The barrier isolated its monumental heat in ways that defies the law of thermodynamics. It eventually died down as the barrier shattered into pieces, revealing a scorched spherical black area where not even ashes remain. Unlike a nuclear explosion, it didn't cause any damage outside of its radius. Even if the barrier was released, there was no shockwave that goes outside. It immediately broke the previously indomitable fighting spirit of both Yu and Hajime. That monster that they had to give their all to defeat, or try to defeat, was easily destroyed and consigned into a thermal collapse. Don't try anything. Now, answer. Who are you? And where am I? Actually, no, just the, who are you? Confused. Very confused, and scared. The two skeptically faced the being, Rimuru. Sure enough. A transcendental beauty, but their fear overwhelmed everything else. To them, the being in front was just a symbol of fear, the epitome of chaos. Quite a rude thing to say, coming from someone who just intruded in here out of nowhere, don't you think? Hajime boldly replied. It was a gamble. Judging from the tone of the being in front of him, they possessed quite a relaxed personality. If he pissed them off, he doesn't want to imagine what happens. Wow, you've got guts. Right, well, sorry for that. The name's Rimuru Tempest. A visitor from the Cardinal World, recently reborn and is now resurrected here. Pleased to meet ya, also, I'm a guy. Rimuru said that as he leaned forward while making V signs with his hands. He didn't forget to mention he was a guy for some reason. To say Hajime was shocked was an understatement. This guy was childish. Superficially at the very least. He can tell. When he made eye contact with those eerily beautiful golden eyes, he can tell that the being in front of him will, without hesitation, obliterate both him and Yu if he handles this wrong. I'm Hajime Nagumo. This is Yu, a vampire. We're currently in probably the second to the last floor of the Great Orcus Labyrinth. I see. The guy, Rimuru, pondered on something as Hajime was pressed about something. Say, do you mind if I ask you, but what did you mean by Cardinal World? Oh, well, it's a semi-spiritual universe. Between the blurred line of physical and spiritual realms, as well as the first of the many universes created by the Star King Dragon, Veldanava. You can say it's the center point of the multiverse. I see. It didn't shock Hajime that much. He was confused about the entire physical, semi-spiritual, spiritual stuff. as well as the Veldanava guy, but he already knew the multiversal theory was correct. Well, they are in Tortus, a world parallel to Earth. Him being from another world is quite a slight surprise, but not to the point of jaw-dropping. Just as Rimuru finished answering, he turned tails and walked near the scorched area made by his hell flare. His existence, directly and indirectly, collapsed the balance of power in Tortus entirely. A déjà vu. Yup. I died again, and is again being reincarnated, or resurrected? I woke up in complete darkness, after years of, well, staying dead, or being unalive. Less than received. Approximately 66 years, 6 months, 6 days, 6 hours, 6 minutes, 6 seconds, has passed. Greater than. Oh, Raphael. Man, what a relief to have you here again. I'll ignore the fact that it seems so organized, but, casting that aside, I began to ponder about things as I was still on a journey to the place I'll be resurrected into. Tempest was destroyed by the Empire. Veldora and Milam's status are unknown. Many of my friends died. I sent Chloe to the past to fix this hopeless future. It's sad, really, but it's already in the past. I oddly don't feel that bothered about it. It's hard to get over it when I think about it, but I have to figure out what I'll do from here on out. The idea of dying again and getting a new life intrigued me, and it made me feel a bit guilty, but it was gone the next moment. Sure enough, I am now a monster. Pondering this, I began to question my intentions. I already died in the cardinal world, so I have no more place there. I think my country was destroyed, my subordinates and friends mostly dead. Perhaps that's why I'm not being resurrected there, but on a different world, through my own subconscious desire. That reality had no hope. I mean, that's why I sent Chloe to the past, didn't I? To fix this. Even though she'd been through a lot, it was the only way we can think of. She was more than determined, and worrying over her now is trampling on her resolve. Less than report. It is highly likely that had that route in time continued, the world would have been eventually destroyed. Greater than. Makes sense. Besides, I'd already died. No more place for me there. I might just be trying to escape, but so what? Here is a new life in front of me, and I plan to embrace it fully. The barrier separating the cardinal world from the rest of existence is something completely chaotic, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Spatial domination could work if I still have connection with my subordinates in the cardinal world, but it all got severed at some point. The only difference is with Veldora, who I formerly have a full-force soul corridor with, making my and his memories transcend space and time. Beings find themselves in the cardinal world by chance and can go there in certain circumstances, but getting out is just, well, impossible, or nigh impossible, since there's no absolutes in the world, I think. Less than notice. There are exceptions in this case. Many different objects and beings from other universes often find themselves winding up in the central world by chance, but getting out is a substantially more difficult task, with the notable exception of the spirit realm and demon realm, which have gates going to and from. Greater than. So, it's also okay to expect for that chance? Turns out, it's not recommended. Those gates are very rare and can appear in centuries, or in any point of time. There's also no guarantee they'd even appear to the world I'm currently resurrecting in. Alright, then. It's decided. We are going to live this new life as we please. I need to stop being anchored to the past and focus on the present and future. I'll leave myself in your care again, partner. Less than affirmative. I will not disappoint you a second time. Greater than. It's okay, I don't blame you. We were caught off guard, and things rushed faster than expected, so it's nobody's fault. Less than. We are here. Greater than. Okay, let's go. As I woke up, I was in a room of fight. Really, thankfully, all my skills are intact. Universal perception automatically activated, and I became aware of everything in my surroundings instantly. On my right, there's 2 people, on their knees, too. One's a white-haired guy with missing arm and eye, the other's a lowly vampire. And she ain't got clothing except for a raggy coat too. How scandalous, I thought. On the left of the ring is a massive, mythical creature called a Hydra. It'll certainly look majestic, dominating, and scary if it wasn't bowling while its head was glued to the floor. Processing all that information in not even a second, I switched space behind the 2 on the right, and asked them who they were. How rude of me, but I couldn't care less. I'm done with all that naive shit. Rather than create a country where all races coexist, I'd live my own life doing whatever I want. That's what my goal will be in this world. They seem to be very scared, trembling, even visible fear in their expressions. The Hydra's weird too. Less than. Notice. Your aura is leaking out. Greater than oh, that again? I forgot about it. Raphael seemed annoyed at my lack of awareness, but hey, couldn't you have done it on your own? And now she shuts up. Anyways, I gobbled up the tiny aura leaking from me with Beelzebub, dissipating the oppressive atmosphere. As I did so, however, the two in front of me prepared to escape quickly. Oh no, you don't. I set Hell Flare on the coordinates of the Hydra, burning it to nothingness. It broke their spirits apart in an instant, not that I care. Besides, now that they felt hopeless, their souls got marked by Beelzebub's soul consume. I can kill them and find them whenever I want, wherever I want. Less than report. You are in a labyrinth called the Great Orcus Dungeon. It is located on the town of Horo. Greater than. How do you know? Oh, is it the Hydra? Less than affirmative. Greater than. As useful as always, Raphael. Don't try anything. Now, answer. Who are you? And where am I? Actually, no, just the, who are you? Anyways, me and the kid certainly had things to talk about. I had my needed information, and I fed him the answers to his questions. I turned my back to them for a bit to organize the words I want to say. I wanted to make a deal with him, but as I organized my thoughts, I looked around. The place we're in is big. Very big. This world's very weak. Although it had mana pervading the atmosphere, the concentration is not that good. That's why it's still considered a physical world, according to Raphael. I turned around after pondering for a few seconds and they're just dumbfounded. But a few seconds later, Hajime started coughing up blood, and you going crazy on what to do. It seemed the perfect opportunity, so I approached him. Yo, Hajime. San-kun. Say, if I save your life, would y'all let me tag along? I don't know shit about this world, so it'd be convenient to go along with someone who knows how things work. Hajime looked back at me with an unreadable expression. It seemed he doesn't fully trust me, and neither do I. Well, I asked the desperate boy in front of me. Please save him, I'll do anything. Now, what should I do? Fine, I accept. Hajime said, his voice growing weaker, and he passed out. That's it. Now to fulfill my end. I pulled out some high potion from stomach and splashed it at him. The result? Dramatic. His arm grew out and his eye glowed as it had appeared. In fact, his entire body was glowing. He still remained unconscious, though. Whoa. Came the muffled reply of Yu, who had stopped throwing a tantrum after Hajime went unconscious. I also splashed one to her, and she fortunately didn't doubt or fight back. It was a miracle happening in front of her and her tears seemed frozen in place. Now then, I said as I stood up, Yu's gaze still fixed on me. While we're at it, let's discuss things over there, shall we? I said, pointing to the end of the room. And thus, my third life began. Perhaps it might even be overkill, but I plan to kill anyone who threatens my life. For the sake of the uncertainties that would follow, a change in mindset was indeed necessary. The weaker I was, the more I would have to sacrifice. My last death proved that. In order to settle the matter and enjoy a life of peace, there was no need to hold back or be polite.